So one of the best parts of having a YouTube channel is being able to make some mistakes and being able to come back here and teach everybody on what not to do. Here you can see my 2.4 ground station set up with the crosshair and with an omnidirectional on top. I think it's a mad mushroom. And it's kind of hard to tell by this angle, but it is pointing directly straight. There's no angle on this thing at all. And I have 2.4 videos set up on my ready-made RC Recruit that I built long range, iNav, all that stuff. Everything's flying perfectly. But on the back of my Immersion VTX, I do not have a 90-degree SMA adapter. I had the Singularity 2.4 just kind of pointing out of the back and curled up because it's on a semi-rigid cable. So everything works great until you're flying and that cable starts to bend down, and then you turn around and come home and you're flying basically into your null zone. So let's take a look at exactly what happened during this flight. Okay, here we are 1.5K out, and I'm not going for any kind of distance record or anything like that. Just flying straight out, seeing how the wing is handling everything, testing video, all that kind of stuff. And as you can see, video looks great. It always looks worse on the DVR than it does in the goggles. I did have a little bit of snow and maybe just a little bit of something on the way out there, but nothing was super crazy. It was just pretty much flawless. More confidence than you're going to get with 5.8. But you can't not be overconfident in your gear. You can't just say, just because I have 2.4 and I flew that far away, that I'm not going to have any problems. Because look what happens when I turn around, and as I'm flying back, and I think I'm flying into the wind at this point. I can only assume that since the ground station is pointed flat and I am at 399 feet, give or take a few, that I probably was flying out of my beam. I was probably higher than the beam. And then you take into the fact that the antenna itself is probably pointed at about 15 to 20 degrees the opposite way towards the tail. As you can see, when I start to dive and I get back into the beam a little bit and I make the antenna a little bit straighter, the polarizations and the radiation patterns start to line up a little bit better, and I don't have a problem. But then as soon as I level out, everything starts to get, a little worse, and I start getting concerned when things like this start happening. And I'm like, oh man, what's going on? What did I do? So I could have initiated a return to home and everything like that, but I really just kind of wanted to fly through it and see what was going on. And on the ground, I actually ended up just kind of angling up my ground station a little bit, maybe pointing it up at like a 20 to 30 degree angle. And that kind of fixed everything. As you could see, in the closer I was booking back, things were getting better. But again, when I got on the ground, my antenna was basically pointing flat in the opposite direction. So it's just a lesson to learn that even with 2.4 and that extra power and extra bandwidth and everything else that we think that we're getting from 2.4, my awesome ground station and awesome antennas, you can still have just as bad a failure if you don't set your equipment up right. So just a good lesson to put out there to everybody. We'll talk to you later.